Again, that was an awkward way to end the previous clip, but considering the raw footage ended up looking, there was no solid way to cut things other than that. It either come out too short or too long for my tastes otherwise. Okay, I hear a hidden block beeping, but I don't see the damn thing anywhere here. But it doesn't look like it's gonna be to our right. Guess we're not going to be going to the Metroid in the room below us via a direct route then. And what a surprise, the enemies we killed before I cut the end of the previous clip have respawned. Ugh. If nothing else, it gives us more of a chance to heal. Okay, looks like we've got a Metroid above us as well. At least if that shell has anything to say about it. Right, not the one I was expecting to run into at the end of the previous clip, but I'm not that picky. Especially if it's gonna be another easy kill first form. Darn, was kinda hoping to go through that fight without being hit at all. Got pretty close to a clean run through it. Not that we have too much to worry about when taking one of the first form Metroids here in a one-on-one encounter. Wonder if we're ever going to see any two-on-one encounters in this game, considering how the combat flows. At the very least, the more complicated movesets the Metroids have in comparison to AM2R makes it harder to imagine taking on more than one at a time. Really? Dealing with another just as we finish killing the other guy? Well, there's certainly a lot of lava in here. Doesn't look like it's gonna mean anything when we fight the Metroid itself, but at least this room looks significantly different from the other rooms we generally fight Metroids in. At least below that chamber. Okay, so it's not in the actual Metroid chamber, at least not yet. Guess we're gonna be dealing with another runner or something? Assuming, of course, we can find him in this room and activate him. Certainly looks like the only room large enough for the Metroid to show up in is the chamber we just left. So where are we going in this maze? Very odd design for this room, really. A convoluted path that only has one room where only one chamber really matters, but we need to travel around a restrictive path to give that chamber the main attraction? The fight itself is fine, but the way they overcomplicated getting to the fight feels like sort of a thing with this game as a whole compared to the other two Metroids I've done so far. In this game, There's quite a barrier overload. In Zero Mission and AM2R, the barriers were, for a lack of a better way to put it, more minimalistic. Okay, countering the second form Metroid's attack looks a lot cooler than I was actually expecting. Now, if only I wasn't making so many easy mistakes in this fight, so I'd feel awesome, instead of like we're gonna have to do a rematch soon despite that nice move. Okay, now that's just a bullshit bit of damage, since we weren't on the platform that was electrocuted, and we were even in ball form to prevent us from touching it. Why is it that felt less like the Metroid earned that kill, and more like I was fighting like a fool in a room where the odds were stacked against us anyway? Sure, his red glow blurred together with the red tint of the room to make it a little harder to tell what attacks he was throwing, but not by an obscene amount. And sure, the way he could electrocute that platform was bullshit in its own right. Still, the platform electrocutions weren't the only blows to have landed, and there were other signs than just the red glow to tell you what the Metroid is gonna do next. Definitely hard to tell where my issues with the fight are, and if they're legitimate or not, or if it's just me being frustrated at myself. But blaming the game more than it probably deserves in this instance feels kind of possible, all things considered, really. Seriously, that landing was so predictable, I have no excuse to have not dodged it. And I have even less excuse to have jumped right into that breath attack. Right. 2 deaths to the same Metroid here. Definitely worried what's gonna happen when we finally run into the T-Rex forms. Am I going to have an easier time because the things aren't gonna be as mobile? Screwed because the things are so large they make more territory dangerous to jump over? Granted, we're probably got a decent amount of Metroids to have to worry about before we reach the next stage of their life cycle, but still, probably should stay and try to counter, but I'm not 100% sure I can do it. Especially considering I managed to flub this fight despite doing a pretty nice counter in the first try. It'd be easier to tell just how close we are to killing this guy if we could tell just how red he's turning. Anyone else find it odd that they purposely put him in an environment where we can't tell just how much damage we've done to him overall? Sure. Even when we can see an enemy's color changing, I don't always know just how much left in the proverbial tank they got left. But at least there was an indicator. Just another annoyance among many here. Speaking of annoyance, why the hell did I let myself get stuck in this corner when we damn well know the Metroid has 2 attacks this corner does nothing to protect us from? Again, my biggest problem with this game seems to be coming down It's just not liking how I've been handling it, even though I'm enjoying the overall ride. Ah well, that's another Metroid down, and we don't ever have to enter this oddly convoluted room ever again. Unfortunately, we have a lot more paths I can find that are completely inaccessible to us than there are frickin' paths that lead somewhere we know is gonna help us make some frickin' progress. Of course, if we already knew what direction to go in order to make progress, then we have fewer things to worry about at that given moment. Debating with myself if I should just move on or do some health farming here. And of course, I decide to get a move on because I really want to find a save point soon. Yeesh! Over 4.5 hours in, and we've saved about 30 times at this point. Possibly one of the reasons why it feels more tiring to comment on. It's designed to be fast-paced, but at the same time methodical, and I'm not all that used to games throwing both of those mentalities at me at once. Again, no sound for any breakable rocks here. I know, I already checked, but there's no harm in checking again. Ah! Finally found a save point. At the very least, this should be a good point to take a break and try to wake myself up a bit. Not that this game is boring, especially compared to Zero Mission and AM2R. It's just that some of the times of day I get a chance to record are a little awkward. And when you're sitting in the same spot for an extended period of time late at night, that's just asking to doze off in your chair. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that there was no other way to make progress, I probably wouldn't have had Samus pull on the ominous red light there. Sure, I didn't know it would wake up some scary-looking robot in the background, but I'd say I've done enough gaming over the years to be able to tell some of the more obvious traps. It's just incredibly annoying that all too often in video games, the only way to make progress is to do something that will inevitably make things harder for our hero in the future. I suppose that's because I feel that a trap that catches both the player and the character on screen off guard at the same time is kind of among the most interesting. But I suppose those kinds of traps are harder to pull off when someone is playing the same game again at a later time. And at least it didn't feel as bullshit of a trap as, say, Bond getting arrested in Severnaya in the N64 GoldenEye. That's definitely my low bar for player characters walking into traps to make things tougher for the player later on. Again, I should probably be doing more to spend Aeon energy in this game, especially since it's not going to be a thing for us in any of the other Metroid games I'm planning on LPing at this time. At the very least, I doubt that Metroid Prime 4 will have it when it finally releases. Well, we're certainly going pretty deep down this shaft to find anything other than the more forgettable enemies to kill. Sure, that gives us more time to heal on our way down, but still. Not even sure why I bothered trying to jump so many times when I saw the grapple point sooner than that. Or why the ground that had the wind that would suck up any bombs we try to set was down there when that ledge was so high up it wouldn't matter how many times we bomb jumped. Not that it would really matter since we've run into yet another barrier that we don't have the means to break through just yet. Ugh. Certainly took us long enough to find a bottom to this shaft. Granted, we have even further down to go before we find the Metroid Queen. And apparently the next room can go even further down. Well, at least that teleport point feels like it was placed somewhere that isn't almost taunting. But then the other one was probably only taunting in my mind, because I was expecting something else entirely than just a teleport point. Even if I wasn't especially picky what I wanted to find other than a frickin' teleport point. Ugh. Huh. Not even a beep for another Metroid, despite us exploring quite a bit of new ground? I'm not really sure what makes that feel more odd to me. The fact that we found a few Metroids pretty close together earlier on in this clip, so I wasn't expecting them to be so spread out suddenly? Or the fact that we're supposed to find 10 before we move on, and we've still got 6 to go after traveling how far? Not much of a puzzle to get that missile upgrade. It's actually kind of funny how there are many aspects I prefer from the older two Metroid games we went through before this one. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to complain for the sake of complaining. Sure, complaining can be a fun way to help pass the time in its own way, but I try not to just bitch about nothing for the sake of bitching. I always have a different mindset when I'm LPing a game than when I'm just sitting down and playing through it. It's easier to step back and think about what you do and don't like about a given game or situation within the game when you take that step back, slow down, and then pick apart the various pieces. For some games, like Prince of Persia, where they have a decent number of great things but space them out so much that it's more infuriating to LP them than it ever could be to just sit down and play the game. Still kind of feel guilty about giving up on that one, and I might try it again, but it just didn't feel right. For games like the 2D Metroid titles, where you probably didn't come for the storytelling, but it's just good enough to add some spice to what's going on, the more analytical mindset means I'm learning more about what it is I enjoy about this particular kind of exploration gameplay. And one of the things that really caught me off guard is the fact that apparently environmental storytelling is more important to me than increased challenge around here. At the very least, that feels like something they sacrificed to make this game more challenging than the other two we went through. And it's making me look forward to getting to Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, despite the fact that this game has plenty of improvements that I'll probably miss when we get to those two older games. Oh, there was probably a way I could have gone up without having to mess with those slugs. Well, at least we're gonna take down another Metroid before the end of this clip. No clue why we've got another small maze when the single chamber with Metroid is supposed to be the main attraction here. Though at least that upgrade in the minimap, it looks like this room has more than just the Metroid in it, so I suppose that's something. Well, shit. No way I'm dodging that pulse from down here. Really got to stop getting greedy with how many hits I can land and just get out of the way of those breath attacks. And again, couldn't get away because I was on the wrong end of the room when he charged it. Definitely like the fact that the terrain actually feels like it means more for a fight in this game than in the other two. And not in the way that the terrain was a factor in the Mother Brain fight back in Zero Mission. There, the terrain did more damage than the thing we were supposed to be fighting against. But here, the thing we're fighting against is what's causing the damage, and we just have to stay more aware of where we are in the room in case it launches one attack over another. Or if he just decides to walk or land right on top of us. Bloody hell! I just keep getting caught by some of the same moves over and over again. Right, and that's 5 down in this area. At least I'm awake enough that I didn't have to go through that fight 3 times to get it right. Now, apparently we can't leave the Metroid chamber the same way we came in. Took a bit more to find an exit than I was expecting. Really not sure why they decided to make some of the rooms more complicated just for the sake of making them more convoluted. Just to get around. And I keep going, Probably a bad sign this far in. Okay, wasn't expecting there to be a door on the other side of the room here. They definitely went out of their way to make sure that while some rooms have similar enough layout that you can tell when you're gonna fight a Metroid, otherwise you really have no idea what you're gonna run into next. And as tempting as it is to break that block and get to that upgrade right now, I think I'm ready to use that conveniently placed save point right about now. See you next time.